And there he pooped on me again. Give it a taste. What's up, everybody? Here at Hike Life. Today I've got a special guest. This is Jason.
Hello. Hi everybody, my name's Jason Brown Knight, and I'm a senior landscape ecologist and owner of Brown Knight Eco Resource LLC. You can find more information about me and my company at brownknighteco.com. It's brownknightheco.com. And as a landscape ecologist, I love being outside. I love being in outdoors, and trying to understand the relationships of plants and animals. And no better place to do it than here at the Wilderness Trail at the edge of Appalachia Preserve, one of my favorite places. So come along with me. We're going to enjoy this wonderful trail on this great day. This is where we would bring the kids. There's a little classroom in there, and this is for the 4th grade students. We would go over the scientific method, and then there's a pond back that trail. So we would take the 4th graders to the pond, and then after lunch we would do a hike up over the ridge and kind of talk about just forest ecosystems and do different forest lessons, decomposition, animals, things like that. And then our 8th grade students, they would come out, and we did a bird study with them in this area. Usually I think we would do that in the afternoon after lunch, but then in the morning we would go out in the forest and do an orienteering and geology course, because geology is really the key to understanding why this place is so unique and significant, which we'll talk about when we get to look at some of it. So this is the original sign. So this trail was opened in 2000, developed and opened, and it's dedicated to Charles Hewlett. Charles Hewlett was a high school teacher at a local high school in Scioto County, not far from here, Northwest High School. He was a well-known naturalist, local naturalist, a huge influence on generations of kids here in the county, and he was really the one that brought the significance and the uniqueness of this particular place to the folks at the Nature Conservancy to get them involved, and used to bring Richard and Lucille Durrell out here on personal hikes, and really is the reason why, and so that's why this is dedicated to him. And then the headquarters of the Edge of Appalachia Preserve is called the Hewlett Center, which is again named after
Charles Hewlett. Cool.
All right, let's keep our eyes out. Hopefully the pink lady slippers are popping up. See some flowering up here. So right here we have an area where we're at a transition of geologic layers. So right now we're on what's called Ohio black shell, which is a geological layer in Ohio, but it's more acidic, and so you have different variations of plants, as we'll see. But one plant that you get on this shell in pine forests like we have here is pink lady slippers. Here's one here that's got a flower on it, and these are orchids. These are native orchids. And here's one that's flowering. Now these plants are, as being orchids, they're native orchids. They're very, very rare in the sense that they're hard to grow. So they have to have certain conditions. So one thing that we always say to folks is, never pick them. If you pick this flower, it'll wilt within seconds probably if you picking it. If you pick it and try to transplant it and grow it, it will die. It will not grow back. So these are the ones we definitely want to keep out in nature. But this is a beautiful, beautiful little native orchid we have. So we're coming down off the Ohio black shell, and now we're going on to, oh yes!
What?
Oh, the Indian paintbrush is in bloom. This is one of the best times of year to be in Adams County, Ohio, because of this flower right here, and we timed it perfectly. This is one reason why I wanted to bring you out here. This is Indian paintbrush, and as you can see, the common name Indian paintbrush because it kind of looks like you dipped it in paint. This is a native forb that's a flowering plant. that grows here. It's really, I think this region of Adams County may be the only place in the state of Ohio, could be wrong there, that this plant particularly grows. And so it does grow like some areas in the northeast of the United States in similar habitat, but I believe this is specific to this area. But you can see just how beautiful it, and folks here, if they let their yards grow, if you live in links, this will come up. This particular section of the trail, this is called Shivner Prairie, and this was really one of the main things that kind of brought attention to this area, because this particular habitat is considered by the Nature Conservancy a globally rare and threatened habitat. So that's on the earth, just if you think about that. So that's how rare this habitat is. This is native tall grass prairie habitat, which you don't think about in Ohio when you think about that. But it's actually one of the rarest habitats we have in Ohio, and we've lost more native prairie habitat in Ohio than any other type of habitat. Now, we didn't have as much of it as others, but it's very unique. So we have flowers like the Indian paintbrush, hoary puccoon. It's just loaded. You get the grasses right now are laid down, but the big blue stem that grows in here will be 10 to 12 feet tall come August, September. So if you walk through this trail at late summer, the prairie takes on a whole different feel because you'll have the tall grasses that will be growing. You have the white flowering dogwood in the landscape here, but this particular habitat is actually the result, and I won't go into too much glaciation, but it's actually the result of when the glaciers started about 350, 400,000 years ago, give or take 10,000s of years. But basically these seeds from these plants have come throughout the years through the glaciations. These particular seeds may have arrived to this area as far back as 16,000 years ago or so during the last glaciation that moved down to the region. So this particular seed bank, it's possible, has been existing in this spot for over 10,000 years. 10,000 years. So that's one reason why they have to protect it and make sure that nothing happens to it. Yeah, a true botanist could spend probably hours in here finding hundreds of different species of plants. I'm not one of those people, so sometimes I just kind of walk through. But it is really magnificent to see it throughout the different times of year of the different species of plants.
I've always wanted to write a book about my land, the land that I have, of when certain things come out. And it's just basically an edible book, or a foraging book, or a medicinal book, but basically about the plants and when you can make, I don't know, some maple syrup, and then when you find the
American Colombo.
When you find the American Colombo.
Yeah.
What is an American Colombo used for?
It is, I believe it, this is where I need to go back to my Indian herbology, Native American herbology books, but I believe the American Colombo does, the one significant thing that it has is right now you see the basil leaves, but later in summer when it sends up its flower shoot, it'll get about this tall. So that's 4 or 5 feet tall possibly.
Really? This particular plant right here?
These leaves will probably be kind of 8 to 10 inches, 4 inches wide or so, but basically it'll take up a much larger area, and then it'll shoot up its flower head with seeds. And so you'll see that so later in the summer you won't see the basil leaves, the big basil leaves. You'll just see the big flower seed spike coming up out of it.
Okay,
so
cool.
This gives you this. You'll notice we're walking on a lot rockier surface. So we're getting in. I mentioned that we're coming down off of the Ohio black shell to another layer called the Peebles dolomite, which you'll see great examples because we're above the cliffs are starting to come out. This rock is about 390 million years old, give or take some millions of years, but it was an ancient sea. This area was an ancient sea at that time when the Appalachian Mountains were being created. And so what we're seeing when we go into this Dolomite Gorge are ancient coral reefs. So they're all made of fossils, it's easy for someone to say. Rocks with fossils in them. I can't say. Fossil. Let's see if we can try it here. How many times? Fossil. I'll get back to you on that. But it has.
I'm glad I'm 6 feet away when he's trying to say this, and there's a lot of spray going on.
There's a lot of spray. I'm not doing good at social distancing right now.
No, you're doing fine.
But one thing you'll notice, if you could even pan, we'll see more of it, but growing right off the rock are tons of variety of plants. And that's because since these rocks are just made up of all these dead organisms from hundreds of millions of years ago, it's loaded with nutrients. And so the plants get the nutrients directly from the rock. And so you have very super shallow soil, which is kind of what we're seeing on the trail, because we're getting to the area where this bedrock comes to the surface. So you have things like Columbine, which is a native flowering plant. Great for shady areas in your yard. If you don't come here and get them, but go to your local native nursery. We have native sedges growing. You can even see this little dogwood, or this little, oh goodness, I'm not sure what that is. A serviceberry. This little serviceberry is growing directly out of the rock. The oak trees, that white, it's growing without any soil really. So that's one thing that makes this such a rare place, is that the bedrock itself is providing the nutrients for these rare plants. It's so cool.
I've got a wood sorrel clover here. I'm getting ready to give it a taste. Each swallow it. It's bitter and like sweet. It's delicious.
Delicious.
It's really good. It has like a pop of juice in it.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like came from the ground. It's a little bit rooty. I can still eat this, right?
You can, yeah. Especially in this, we're in a nice clean environment,
Man.
Real refreshing.
It's kind of like a lemon, a little bit of a lemon citrus taste to it.
Yeah. One of my favorites.
I see why. Yeah. And who knows what the calorie count is, but for like a refreshing taste.
Yeah, see, that's more than what I go for, is that refreshing, Sometimes it even says, like, if I feel like maybe I just need a refreshing drink of water, I won't go for it, I'll just go for that.
Yeah, and you were saying that the spice bush might freshen your breath. I feel like this is kind of like gives you that fresh sense.
Absolutely.
Really cool. Thank you for letting me try that. It's awesome.
So one of the great things about visiting really any great preserve this time of year or state park is the wildflowers. And one of the most spectacular wildflowers I think we have in Ohio, really, and even in the Appalachian region, is large flower Trillium. And that's what this is. And I think it's Triloba grandifolia, but I could be wrong there. But just a beautiful white Trillium, native. And we'll see many, a lot more of it as we move along. But if you're out in any forest, nice healthy forest, keep your eyes out open for large flowered Trillium.
So he says that you can see the dolomite starting to pop out there because we're getting into the gorge a little bit. So you can see the rock the formation starting to change a little bit right there in that area. So as you can see here on this, we've come down from up there and around and on this trail, and then this actually goes down into an even shallower. There's a creek bed down there. You can barely see it, and then you can see the dolomite rock there, which is really, really cool. So we have literally been steps into the woods, and we have covered all of those things, and I think that's amazing that we can walk in, and then the excitement that he has about plants and about nature, and it's how I feel. I just don't have the knowledge, but when I walk out in the woods, I see the flowers and I love them, and I think it's amazing that he has the knowledge to back it up. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come out here and make this video, is so that you, the viewer, could learn more about nature. So when you go out the next time, maybe you could retain this information or take notes and do the same thing with your kids or with your family members or with your friends. So
see, you're gonna have trouble with me. There's wild geranium, another beautiful spring. So a lot of these wildflowers, the reason why we're seeing, we call them spring ephemerals, which means they're the first ones to come up because the sunshine can still penetrate the forest floor. Oh, look, and there you can see some of those that's the American Columbo up there. You see how much bigger they're getting. But this wild geranium, and again, you can get native geraniums at hopefully your local landscapers to plant at home. But this is the native that's just gorgeous, that I'm happy that we're still seeing in bloom. Oh, just the lushness, these wildflowers. All right, yes. Another super exciting find on our journey. This is another orchid. This is called Showy Orchid. And a lot of folks, like when they go down the Smoky Mountains, they'll see things like pink lady slippers and showy orchids. They'll travel all over the world to see them. And here they are right here in southern Ohio. And this is just another beautiful orchid that you find in the deep lush forests of
Really pretty.
eastern Appalachia. So, Showy Orchid.
Big ass centipede.
Oh man, we haven't seen any cherry millipedes.
Millipede, it is a millipede.
He's a millipede, so he can't hurt you.
He can or
And
can't?
He cannot hurt you.
He says he can't hurt me.
Unless you eat him.
Okay.
But notice that he's black and yellow. So that's an indicator in the wild that I'm poisonous and I'm toxic. So do not eat me.
Okay.
And so like, you know, a monarch butterfly, that has toxins. It's orange and black. That's letting things know, hey, you don't want to eat me. Well, this cherry millipede, he's doing the same thing. He's saying you don't want to eat me because he's got cyanide in him at very low levels, and we call them cherry millipedes because when Chris picks him up and shakes him in his hand, you'll smell it. And you'll see why we call them cherry millipedes. He will not hurt you at all. I promise you he will not hurt you. Working with a cherry millipede, Chris getting experience to see why we call them cherry millipedes and why they're black and yellow.
He just pooped on me.
Yeah, so, and you can wipe that off, it won't hurt you. So you can smell that poop.
Yeah.
So if you smell the poop or just smell him,
Oh yeah.
you can smell why we call them cherry millipedes.
And there he pooped on me again.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that's their defense. I'm teaching Chris
So now
their
I'm
defense.
supposed to roll them up?
Well, yeah, you can just, the smell is the key. So as long as you can get it, yeah, kind of cup him in your hand and then get a good smell from him.
Oh.
Yeah.
It has a cherry smell
Has
to
a
it.
cherry smell to it.
It does have a cherry smell.
So cherries,
Ooh, come on, buddy.
as some people do know, can have some layers of carcinogens and toxins in them.
Wow, it's very cherry, like almost like a cherry sucker or like an artificial cherry a little bit.
It's, yeah, and that's the low levels of cyanide that are also in cherries that are in the essentially the feces of this.
Yeah, great, right? Good thing it's there's a pandemic going on. I got
That's
hand
right.
sanitizer in my hand.
And I knew he would. That's why I encouraged him to experience the cherry millipede. So here we are again along the Wilderness Trail, and yet another wildflower we haven't seen yet. Probably because again we're on this north-facing slope, so a little less sun, a little more shade, and these are a shade-loving plant. This is called a wood poppy, and this is it's just a beautiful. It's a little past, so the flower is a lot prettier than what it is now. It's pretty faded. It'll go to seed here soon. This flower is already kind of going away. But just one of my favorites. It will just cover a hillside. It's here growing with this twin leaf. Here's some ramps, which is another beautiful native edible. Tastes like the roots. You can prepare the roots, and it tastes like a leek. So just like a leek. They can be cooked up. A lot of times you can find them with morel mushrooms, cook them up with morel mushrooms. But this is another great edible plant that we have in the Appalachian region and in this particular preserve as well.
All this leak talk, you have to excuse me for one second, guys.
We pretty much came out of the gorge, but we still have some rock outcroppings, and we're coming through this really nice grove of northern white cedars. Yes, you can call it, I am a tree hugger, and I am proud to be a tree hugger. This tree right here is well over 100 years old. And who knows, this tree, if you cord it, could be over 200 years old. That's how slow these northern white cedars grow. So what you're looking at in southern Ohio is basically an ancient boreal forest species from the northern hardwoods that's thriving right here. And we're about to walk through it.
I'm a tree hugger too. All right, we got Jason back there.
Hey,
he has just taken us on a fantastic tour. My heart is just replenished. My mind is replenished. This is what I need. I need to get outside, and especially when I get to learn new things like we've just learned today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Do me a favor, if you're liking this video, I have a lot of cute content coming up, a lot of new things. Please subscribe and like. I don't like to ask, but if you like me, I just appreciate it. So, Jason, any closing words? But look, also maintaining social distancing. You see that? Look how far away he is.
Right.
Got any closing words, sir?
Just while you can, and it's springtime, get outside, practice social safe distancing, but enjoy nature, because Mother Nature is at her splendor right now, and it's awesome.
And we just experienced the best of it. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next video on Hike Life. Woohoo! We are social distancing, so we are staying 6 to 12 feet apart today.